In between recording and releasing this podcast, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has died. All our thoughts are with the entirety of the royal family. Better words than mine will describe the commitment and service she gave not only to this country, but the world. So from everyone at the WRP, we will just say, thank you, Mum. Hello, and welcome to a new series of the Women's Rugby Pod. I'm Johnnie Hammond, and England captain Sarah Hunter is alongside MBE. How are you, Sunter? Have you summered well?
I'm very well, thank you. I think the majority of my summer has been spent in England camp, the last couple of months anyway. So yeah.
Just about hanging on to the tan. Look, it's hugely exciting time for the women's game. Here's what's coming up on the pod. We're going to talk about all the news that's happened, results and all the rest of it over the summer period, contracts and results and transgender policies and all the rest of it. We'll bring you hopefully up to date with everything that's been happening on the Oval World. And of course, we're going to talk to Sunter about the latest game against the USA and what's been happening in the England camp. And we've got some domestic news for you as well. So bring you all up to date. So Sunter, as I say, just about hang on to the tan there. Where have you been? Has it been a summer at Rose Cottage, sat in the garden?
No, I've just barely spent any time here, to be honest. Had a little holiday to Mallorca for a week, and then into pre-season. So we had 3 weeks down in sunny Bath. So we're obviously outside most of the time. So that kept the tan propped up nicely. Then I went to France for 5 days to see my parents. So again, managed to top up the tan a little bit then, and then
where in France?
The southwest of France. It's a tiny little village called Montségur. So
sort of Biarritz way, that kind of.
Not quite. It's about an hour east of Bordeaux.
Yeah,
really nice. Yeah. And then we've been down at Penny Hill since then, and since August. So again, nice sunny. Where is it? Bagshot? Nice sunny Bagshot.
Yeah.
Where? For pretty much outdoors all the time. We've had some delightful weather. I think we've done a bit of heat training, shall we say, with sort of 30 plus days, which hopefully will have some benefit when we get out to New Zealand, and it might be a little bit cooler there.
Yeah, it will be a lot cooler. Yeah, there was some interesting posts on social media with the players getting very, very hot and what have you. But because you've been in for 9,648 days now in camp for pre-season. I'm not going to ask you to comment on whether it's too long or too short, but look, it's unique, isn't it, to get together for this kind of time. I think it's 9 weeks, isn't it? And the most you've ever had before is 4 weeks. How do you keep it fresh? How the coaches kept it fresh? I understand sort of blocks each week and looking at different things. First of all, on the field, that's the question. But secondly, off the field as well, because they say don't go away with people for more than 3 days. It's like fish because they go off after 3 days. But 8 weeks stuck together, that's quite something.
Yeah, it certainly has been. I think that's probably why they sent us to Bath for 3 weeks. It's a venue we went last pre-season, and it was very focused around like games and sort of like core like strength and fitness and stuff like that. So you were in teams, and so it was quite refreshing in terms of like very competitive edge. We went to Thatcher's, so we made some cider. And they've done there was coffee day. We went into Clifton Coffee and did learn about coffee, made coffee. So try to mix it up, give us some days off so we can go and do whatever we want away from people. So I think that was kind of like, let's take us somewhere where we're not tactically doing rugby, so that when we got to Penny Hill, it was a new venue, it was something like different. Tried to like, and like you say, each week was a different focus, so like defense, attack, so on field trying to make it a little bit different. And I think obviously the build up each week got more into rugby, so like the increase in contact, so that kind of made things a little bit different. You're in different teams, it's now 15v15 rather than small sided games, so I guess that keeps it quite fresh. And just try away from pitch, like McKenna's in charge of doing like little things, so we had like times where, I don't know, we were in our teams and we had to work out what different brands of Coke were. We just got given like different Cokes, Diet Cokes, and like little silly things like that, and chocolate, like so you had to do that. And yeah, so just keeping it really, we had a team building day where we got to like drive go-karts around Penny Hill and things like that. So yeah, just they've tried real hard to try and keep rugby on rugby, and then when we're off rugby, it's switch off and having your own time to do things, so it's not forced in any way like that. So actually it keeps it quite fresh. And we've, other than the USA game, we've been in 4 days, so it's a short period of time, you get to go home for 3 days, so like sort of chill out, get back in. So then when you come back on Monday, it feels like you've been away for quite a while, so you're fresh and ready to go again. So yeah, it's not been too bad. And then at the weekend, we got to taste our cider that we've made, so that was quite interesting.
And how was yours?
So me and Amber redid ours, and we actually came third in the naming of your cider, not the taste. We call that. Was it
copyrighted already?
It's copyrighted. True Brewmans, so like BREW man. So yeah, said Brewmans. Yeah. So yeah, we came third in that. Got a Thatcher's bucket hat, so that was pretty exciting. But we didn't win the taste, unfortunately. And I thought, like, how wrong can you go following a recipe? And I was expecting big things from our cider, and then me and Rido tasted it at the same time, and it was somewhat disappointing, shall we say.
Right. So who won the name, and what was the name, and who won the taste?
You know what? I can't remember who won the name. I kind of switched off when
I haven't won. I'm not listening anymore.
Yeah, but Poppy, Shauna, and Sophie, our physio, won the taste. No, they didn't. They came second, or did they come first? I can't remember. I think they came first. So they won the taste competition, and they didn't taste very nice either. Like, none of them tasted nice.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, but perhaps we'll just edit that bit out in case Thatchers are looking to.
But they were
looking for collaborations.
They came in and explained like who had won and like the rankings and stuff, and I was like, so come on, tell us who the worst one was. Like, whose was the one that was undrinkable? They were like, oh no, they were all really nice, they were made with love, and energy went into making them. Like, no, honestly, you can tell us. But they refused to let us know who came bottom of the pile. They only did the top 3, unfortunately.
Now, although they're now tipping that into sort of paint stripping bottles and use that around the Thatcher's farm. Thatcher's Gold is a lovely tipple. If you're listening, guys, more than happy to have
we've
some
got to do some taste testing of loads of different ones. So, certainly we were very well looked after there. We got a tour of the like how they make the cider and everything, how the production of it. We got to do some taste testing. And then we got to make our own. So yeah, it was a great sort of evening spent there.
Enough about that particular brand of ciders, and of course there's lots of others available out there just as good, I'm sure. Go-karting. I've got to, please tell me that Scouts didn't win go-karting.
No, their team didn't. It was a complete fix. That I'm going to throw this out there, because actually our team won both the races.
Of course they
and
do.
got ranked third. I was like, but we won both of the races. So I think the organisers were just making it up as they went along. So yeah.
But I love that, the fact that you've pushed for a steward's inquiry, and yet the England captain can't shift the judges. That's brilliant.
So then they went to like sort of well, they in the end they were like, oh, we'll just throw those results out and we'll go for like, you know, just neutral start again. And it was like a time, like sort of sprint rather than a go-kart track. Yeah, we didn't fare too well in that. And then Emma Singh pulled out the bag. Yeah.
There you go. Wow,
Yeah.
Emma Singh.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious because I suspect, bar one or two, it'd be any player I could sit there and ask them about the go-karting in camp, and they would all have a slightly annoyed look in their face if they hadn't won it. And that's just how competitive you guys are. It's extraordinary. Your entire demeanour changed.
It was brutal at times. I think the medics were certainly looking away as people were like crashing into one another, and like limbs were potentially being lost. But you know, we all survived and we all came through. But it was certainly a very competitive afternoon. I've never seen Penny Hill look so different.
The Penny Hill Grand Prix. But another thing I just want to back up onto the bits you said is, you mentioned Sarah McKenna there. I'm sure there's other people heavily involved in that sort of social side. I know Jamie George is very involved on the men's side for England, and every team will have them. But how much we're talking about going to New Zealand, for 6 weeks or whatever. How important is a player like that? Is it almost worth the plane ticket itself? Of course, she's a fabulous player. She would be there if she wasn't. But is it, how much importance is put on that kind of thing?
I think from a team perspective, a player perspective, it's huge. You know, I think what McKenna does, she gets a balance really well about reading the room, about when actually we're going to do a whole thing together, or she might, like, you know, the taste testing of like these like unknown cokes and chocolates or whatever, like or whether it's just like something that she'll put out, say like in the autumn when balloon making, for example, just threw a few balloons on the table and then people can pick and choose whether they do it. And like, so yeah, it's she's really good at knowing and different things. So on I think captain's run day, or no, a day off maybe last week, her and Fleeto decided to put on a juice and stretch morning. So McKenna went and bought this juicer and just like started making juices for everyone, like whacking ginger in, carrots in, all sorts of wonderful wacky things she was making. But like, that's the sort of thing that she goes above and beyond for the squad. So I feel like it's always important to have someone like that within your team who's going to bring something away from rugby, that actually knowing like how to get people to switch off from thinking about the game. So yeah, she's brilliant at that.
Yeah, I know. Simon Middleton, not for you to say or comment on, but no, yeah, big stall in that, and that name Sarah McKenna comes up a lot when talking about that off of the field stuff. So you've had a good summer, big pre-season, and then no doubt knocking lumps out of each other, whether it be on the Penny Hill Grand Prix or on the training field out the back there. You want to get into a game, and Saturday comes around, USA. You were England's hydration technician for the day, on the sidelines. I'm guessing, if I know you well enough, you don't like being stood on the sidelines, do you?
I don't think anyone does, to be honest. But I think what's really important, like we all know that when you get to a World Cup, every player isn't going to play every minute of every game, and it's the ultimate squad sort of performance. And I think like we knew that like no one was going to play in like every minute of both these games, so like that had been prepped, and we've spoken a lot as a team about the squad effort and actually what the role is for those players not playing. And And yeah, while you're frustrated not to be playing, like that sort of frustration, disappointment, like I had a chat with mids, and like as coaches you're probably disappointed if a player just went, all right, okay, that's okay, I'll go and do this.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
If they want you to want to play as well. So I think that the players that didn't get selected were great. Yes, they probably had their own personal frustrations, but that never came across. Like we all dealt with it. And then the next day, like it was like, right, well, what can we now do to help the team? Like, what is our role this week? It's not for us to get prepared to play. It's for us to help the team be best prepped they can be, so that they can go out and perform. So if that's running in defense or they attack, or that's like getting things that they need for them, and making sure that they can just focus solely on preparing themselves for the game and making sure that they're in the best possible place. So yeah, it was but then my immediate thing is, well, can I run water? Can I like do something on the day to try and help them? So yeah, it's just a different mindset to have. And I think we've got a really good group that generally, like, everyone's like, oh, I'm not playing, but like how can I help to make the team the best they can be?
Yeah, and you see that in the warm up and what have you. Honestly, South Africa, you've got nothing on us. Razzie Erasmus, stand aside. Got Sarah Hunter, MBE. Yeah, for me, the selection, and I think ideally you want to be trying or sort of confirming some combinations and getting a little more flow into it. England's problem is that you're trying to squeeze 100 people into a very small plane, and there's so much talent. And when you see the likes of Claudia MacDonald come back and play the way that she did, and Kath O'Donnell being an absolute nuisance all game, and Moana Talon throwing herself around, and these kind of players, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you want to give everyone a fair shot, and I think you have to do that as a coach. But so the selection for me was sort of a mix between those two things, and I guess the performance for me could have laid that out to bear, that people are trying to get on a World Cup plane, but also do the best for the team, and it was just caught in between the two. How was it for you?
Yeah, I think like Simon's spoken a lot about everyone having an opportunity over these two games, and I think that's what he's done. Like you say, there was people coming back from injury that haven't played for England in a long while that needed an opportunity. They needed to see where they were at, different combinations. So yeah, so we knew that over these two games there was going to be some changes. I think everyone was ready to play. Like we needed to play. Like we needed to see where we were with training. Like we'd done everything. You get to a certain point and be like, right, we just need to put it out there in a competitive match. Like when we play each other in 15v15 scenarios, like we almost know what we're going to do. We know how we're going to attack. We know how we're going to defend. So it's really difficult. Whereas obviously playing a different opposition gives you different challenges. And I think there were some elements of the game that were really good. They were really like, they clicked, things gelled, it was really sharp. And then at the same time,
You're not getting away with that. I want specifics.
So I think like you look at one of the tries scored, was it the first half, when we kind of went through like sort of game plan in terms of like punching, like off the line out went well, a few phases, bang bang, and then we've got like walking on the edge basically, because we've like drawn them in and created that space, preserved that space, and we've been really accurate in what we've done.
Yeah.
Whereas other times when we got into the USA half, like we had a couple of mauls that didn't go like to how they have been, you know, like they got stopped or penalty, and then we weren't really clinical then on like our pick and go detail, and then we'd force an error, and then like that happened a few times. It was almost like we weren't clinical with the opportunities we had in the USA 22. So like unforced errors around like penalties at times when were unnecessary. They were like almost controlled or more controllable, like not rolling away or like hands in the ruck, those sorts of things, where that's like, for me, a personal choice about whether you've rolled away quick enough, or you've got on the back foot, you're not giving away for offside, or actually you're listening to the ref when she's saying hands out now. That they're things that you can adapt to. So I think those are the sorts of things that we like just need to tidy up, and just be, have a bit more clinicalness about us when hopefully we play Wales in the next week.
Yeah, and those kind of details would, be sorted out. If you were captain on the field, you'd have sorted those individual stuff out. I mean, terrible captaincy. I get you. I know where you go. No, look, joking aside, I think it's important to give everyone that chance. I think we don't tend to throw too many individual bouquets, but it was just wonderful to see Claudia MacDonald back on the field after facing the fact that she would probably never play rugby again with her neck injury, and to come back and boy did she mean that, and to see a player, it means so much. She was exceptional, and all plaudits to her. She got player of the match. We thought we could talk about her, or just get her on the pod. Claudia MacDonald, thank you so much for joining us on the WRP. We've just been waxing lyrical about your performance at the weekend. First of all, how are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Not sore anymore, which is nice. The body's finally recovered. But yeah, still having really enjoyed playing a bit of rugby.
Great stuff. And that's ever-present smile is there, which is lovely to see. Look, Claudia, Saturday was incredibly special for you, I suspect. Just take us back, and we'll sort of go there, and then we'll rewind back as it were. But running out in the white jersey, red, weren't they? The red jersey, with the red rose on your chest, and then singing the national anthem. Just how special was it? Take that back to those emotions.
Yeah, it was incredibly special. I think I said it before. I think the specialness, I guess, sort of started the night before at shirt presentation. When I got given my shirt, I didn't think it would be that emotional, and then all of a sudden I was sort of welling up, and I was like, oh my goodness, stop looking at people. I was trying to look into the corner to stop myself crying. I was like, this is ridiculous. Why am I crying? But obviously it means a lot. It's just such a relief to get back out there. And it was the first time we had a much wider squad in camp. So the tunnel was, come out the tunnel, and then we were lined with everybody that wasn't playing that day. And that was just like it was just amazing. They were just cheering and like getting so excited and whatever. So we ran out to that, and then obviously the crowd there was just immense. There were so many people watching. So yeah, it was pretty emotional. It was just really nice. I was just so happy.
Yeah, and it's easy to get swept up with those emotions, and certainly not on this podcast. You need to apologise for sharing your emotions. Often in tears on the pod. In fact, talking about you with Sunter earlier, I got a little bit emotional. So pleased for you that you're back out there. Look, if people have been under a rugby rock for the last 10, 12 months, why was Saturday quite so special? 10 months out the game, and you were told basically that you probably wouldn't play again. Just give us some details through that.
Yeah, so I played the autumn internationals, and in a training session prior to the first game, actually, I picked up a neck injury that we kind of assumed was a bit soft tissue, and then as time went on, we realised it was actually a little bit worse than we initially thought, and I had a bulging disc at one level that was compressing my spinal cord, and then I had 2 discs above that were bulging and weren't that happy as well. So that took a little while, but it meant that I couldn't play rugby straight away. As soon as we saw that MRI scan, I couldn't play rugby. We were then going down what was the route forward, what could we go do. Got offered a few surgical options, which I ended up turning down because it seemed a little bit like I'd have one surgery, probably would then need a second, because it wasn't just at one level that there was damage. It was the one above was quite bad as well, and that was causing nerve issues. So then it was sort of like, okay, well, I'm not sure I want to have one surgery to then have a second surgery in we're not sure in how long time. So, and that would mean I couldn't play rugby at all. So the third option, or the second, or whatever other option, was to wait. And the issue with that was that potentially I would never play rugby again, because the body might not repair the neck, might not repair the discs that had sort of protruded out. So that was the decision that I came to, not to have surgery and then to wait. They thought it would take a year to a year and a half if it did repair itself, and that was very much an if. But so really 10 months has been incredibly short, but there was that huge middle ground where we just didn't really know. And initially we thought it was going to be 3 weeks, then it was 6 weeks, then it was 3 months, and then it was actually at 6 months that I got some news that I'd sort of forgotten about. Really, I wasn't expecting at all.
That's amazing. What on earth did you do? You went to Thailand? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What did you do in Thailand? Did you meet the best script writer in the world? No, can't play rugby ever again. Oh, actually, you can play again. Back in contention for the World Cup. New club, Rugby World Cup on the horizon. All happening. It's fixed itself. What on earth do you do in Thailand to make this all happen now?
What's annoying is I went and visited my eldest brother, and he'd already claimed that he taught me everything I know about rugby. And now he sits there and he also fixed my neck and got me back to rugby. Like...
There you are then. Yeah, brilliant. Told you it was something.
But yeah, I think I spent that month. I spent like a couple of days in Prague visiting a friend. We spent a week in Ireland or so, and then I went to Thailand to visit my brother. Basically spent the whole Six Nations abroad. Came back and then was told I could play rugby. And I thought, oh, I am not in a shape to play rugby anymore. No, I kept fit, but I wasn't rugby fit by any means.
And so how did that conversation go, presumably? And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing the England medical staff are all across, what your progress is and what have you. And Mids is there, and that conversation, actually, do you know what, we're okay. Can I come back, please, sir?
A little bit like that, yeah. It went through medical staff very much so they spoke to coaches, and I didn't really hear what coaches thought about it yet, because we needed to sort of answer some questions around, did it mean I could actually play rugby again? Like, what did that look like? How long was it? I was still I felt like I was chasing the clock. It still feels like I'm chasing the clock, because obviously I found out at the end of Six Nations, so the league was over, more or less. I wasn't going to play any more rugby in the league. The Six Nations was over. So in terms of matches, prepare yourself and put your hand up for selection, all of those opportunities were gone. My fitness and sort of time on a pitch was obviously minimal. I think I played 5 games for club last season. So it was very much like, is it feasible? Can I get back? Do the surgeons think that there's any sort of risk factors to me playing rugby again? Once all those answers were, yeah, it's all fine, it was then speaking to Mids and going, do you want me? Like, if I can get back, do you want me? And he was really supportive, which was brilliant, and was very much like, yeah, if you can get back and you can do the pre-season camps, then yeah, it's all up to you to put your name up for selection.
And then that comes down to Saturday. How joyous was that first time back in camp?
Stressful, but yes.
Why stressful?
Well, we were going into pre-season, and I know everybody had time off, as everybody had like 4 weeks off for the off season or so, but I felt like I had like 6-7 months, and I'd been training at WASP, but I was so nervous about just making a fool of myself, like not being fit enough, not being up to scratch, making stupid mistakes, forgetting stuff, even though we weren't even playing moves or anything, but I was still nervous that I'd forgotten them, even though I'd gone through them all, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm just going to be rubbish. But no, it was good. I was excited to be there, and I enjoyed it.
I mean, ever the professional, you answer it on a playing basis. What I meant was, from the girls, the rest of the squad. No, it's fine.
Oh yeah, no, it was great to be back with them.
Yeah, and all the old games and all the rest of it, and all the rest of it. I'm guessing you're welcome with open arms.
Yeah, everyone was really supportive, which was really nice. I think I went into people didn't realise that I could play contact again for a little while. I went into like a pre camp, and it was just touch anyway. And then they were like, oh my God, you can actually play contact. I was like, yeah, I think so, like in time. And everyone was really excited. So it was nice. Yeah, it was really cool.
Brilliant. So that takes us to Saturday, but back to that. We've spoken a couple of minutes now, and it's fairly obvious as to where that performance came from. And it was a stellar performance, player of the match. Some really nice words from Dolly Waterman on the comms, and rightly so. A couple of tries, one of them was a worldie. But sometimes those emotions can work against you, and I'm guessing, as you said at the beginning, emotions were running high the day before on a Saturday. Just how did you manage to just convert those emotions and everything that's gone on, plus whacking your hand straight up in the air for a plane ticket to New Zealand, into that kind of performance in a position you don't often play?
I don't know. I think I actually was very surprised when I got playing the match anyway. I don't think I necessarily deserved it. I was on the end of a couple of nice passes, but I was very grateful for it.
Stay humble. Stay humble.
I mean, you should have seen the tackles that like Cider and Tap were putting in, and the carries from some of the forwards. Oh gosh, immense. But no, I don't really know. I guess once you're on the rugby pitch, it's really difficult. You just think about playing rugby, so a lot of it sort of goes away. I did have one moment on the pitch where I reminded myself to enjoy it. I was getting a little bit frustrated, and I actually spoke that out loud to myself and was just like, just enjoy it, Claude, you don't know when it's going to end. Like, and it was just like a little reminder, and I was like, okay, all right, we can do this, that's fine. And yeah, and I think it was either when I was tired or I don't think I was frustrated, so it must have just been when I was, I don't know when it was, but I can remember having that moment and saying it to myself. But yeah, I don't know, you just play rugby, don't you? And I think when you relax, then you play better rugby, or you at least try to. I mean, I certainly made loads of mistakes, but thankfully Nolly didn't point all of those out on the comms, so.
No, absolutely. I was in the West Stand, and your sister was a couple of rows down, and I mean, it was fairly obvious to hear just how pleased she was with your performance. She's quite vocal, your sister, isn't she? I loved it. Very passionate. Yeah. It was genuinely really lovely to see you back out on the field, and it did look like you enjoyed it. Obviously, that muscle memory just kicked in, and you're back out on the field. But was there not even a slight moment? You're going to probably say, "Well, we've done it all in training, Johnny." So, but a test match is different. Did you have any worries about the neck at all? Did it cross your mind in the slightest?
Did it? There was one tackle, I think, where I got myself a little bit squished, and I had like a moment of, am I okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, back up I get. But so far I haven't really thought about it so much at all. I think my first training session back, where we did full contact, the physios came straight up to me straight afterwards and were like, are you okay, what's going on? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine, what's wrong? They were like, was your neck okay? I was like, yeah, it's fine. Why what have I done? And they're like, well, you just survived your first training session. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about it. Like, it was this really weird exchange that they were expecting me to think about. I was like, oh, I'd completely forgotten. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. Yeah, cool, that was good, enjoyed it. But no, I guess because it's been so gradual, it's been building over such a long time, and we sort of have internal games in camp anyway where we play against each other and have to tackle each other lots. It was a first game back, but it wasn't like a first. It was obviously, but it wasn't at the same time. Like I felt ready for it.
Yeah, great stuff. What did you make of the 14 roses around you, the team performance?
Yeah, excellent. I think it was difficult. It was the first game back after a long little while, so we're going to have made mistakes as a team. I think we make mistakes, but this is the time to make them. So we're going to have to go back to the drawing board a little bit, do a bit of analysis, and make sure we learn from them, and keep building around how we want to play. And where opportunities are, or potentially where we could have been exploited. Luckily weren't, but I think we could have been. But no, I think it was really good. I think everybody played really well for a first game back as well. And yeah, it was really cool. And we had some young people playing as well, like Sadia obviously starting, which is I was so excited for her. But yeah, and I think she made something like 30 tackles or something in that game. Absolutely nailing people.
Yeah, it was something like 28 individual tackles I heard, and then like second 6 secondary tackles. Just extraordinary. I mean, I did tweet during the game. She's booking her place, on her ticket to New Zealand. I thought her performance was outstanding. Some good moments, weren't there? And as you say, so a bit of rustiness, bit of crumbs, there's a World Cup selection coming up kind of performances.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really difficult because there's pressure on everybody as individuals as well, because as much as we are one squad, there's still a few people that are currently in the squad that aren't going to go. I could very much easily be one of those. And so you do feel like you do feel the pressure of that, absolutely, in terms of wanting to put out an individual performance as much as a team performance. But no, hopefully that wasn't too apparent. We've also got some people that have come back. Obviously, like Tatiana Hurd hasn't played since 2019, so that was incredible. I think perhaps a few tears. I kept looking at her before the game. We were next to each other because 11 and 12, and it was just like, all right, come on, let's enjoy this. Like, let's have fun out there. Just like little reminders to each other, which was cool. The Moz Morwenna Talling was back after her ACL, and Kath as well. There was 4 of us, I think, that had been back after a while. I barely had any time out compared to the other girls, but
yeah, but possibly significantly more serious. How much is it helping your cause, do you think, Claudia? And we're starting to wrap it up, but that you can play on the wing, as well as obviously your more recognised position of scrum half, and you could put a performance out like you did at the weekend, in a sort of slightly more unrecognised place. How much is that helping your cause, do you think? Do you think diversity in terms of flexibility, versatility is going to help selection?
I don't know. I mean, you hope so, don't you? I certainly hope so. That, or it makes me jack of all trades, master of none. So,
well, yeah,
one or the other.
Yeah.
No, it can be. Sometimes it can be a bit stressful because you're splitting your time between the two positions. And for somebody anyway that seems to be chasing the clock, trying to get as much sort of time training and everything else in a short period of time to show that I can play again, I guess, can be difficult to split between two. But yeah, I don't know. I hope so, but I guess everybody's sitting there hoping that whatever they're doing and whatever whatever it is that they can provide that's extra to their competition is good enough.
I mean, you'd go as half-time orange cutter if that was available to get a place in New Zealand. I'm sure everybody would, wouldn't they? Do you girls talk about it in camp? Do you talk about always how many front rows you're going to take, how many second rows how many scrum halves do you think he's going to take? Are those conversations happen at all?
I think a few people have probably written down what squad they think is going. Probably as much as seeing how you have.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. It's tempting, isn't it? Or trying to work out numbers, what the split will be in terms of backs and forwards and within that front row and whatever, because they take up a few spaces too.
9 of them, yeah.
Yeah, seeing how many spaces are left for the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. You want to start throwing the ball in the line out, Claudia? You're like...
Yeah, right. Got to add to my repertoire. But yeah, I think everybody certainly had a little play with it. I think as much to work out who their competition is as, I don't know, also maybe to see how correct they get it when the squad does come out. But yeah, is it spoken about? A little bit. I think people try not to talk about selection so much and focus just on what's happening this week and leave that up to the coaches.
Control the controllables. Come on.
Oh, yeah, all that boring stuff.
Yeah. Get that media chat out. No, we're anti-media chat here on the pod. Just finally, Claudia, I genuinely so delighted to see you back out there. You bring a great energy on and off the field. Incredibly personable. And you got a World Cup which you're putting your hand up for. You say you're against the clock, but I think that versatility is going to help you. You move clubs obviously down to Exeter with Cleaner. From where you were 6 months ago, can you quite believe where you are now?
No, absolutely not. I didn't ever anticipate this happening. I thought I'd be working an office job in London, to be quite honest.
Really?
Yeah, I had it all lined up. I had the job. I'd accepted the job and everything. I was going to go work as a sustainability consultant at PwC.
Wow.
Here I am playing rugby. I had to then go in. I went into the office to meet with one of the partners before I'd even started, to be like, so how do you feel about me not starting in like a week's time? And he was incredibly happy that I was back playing rugby, and was like, yeah, this can wait. So it's on the back burner for a little while, which it's amazing to have it. But yeah, no, absolutely not. Did not anticipate this.
Just as I say, absolutely delighted for you. So you what back into camp later this week in preparation for Wales, and then when's selections? 20th of September, isn't it? Away 23rd, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, I think we find out sometime after the Bristol game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, look, all the best for selection for the Bristol game. As I say, yeah, all of us here absolutely delighted to see you back on the park, and some way to mark your return as well. But thanks for your time this morning, and all the best for selection for Wales and beyond.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Lovely chatting to you.
I'm Rosie Galligan, and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
The other person I wanted to just pick out, and I wonder whether this is influencing in training, what have you, was Zoe Harrison. Her touch at the weekend in everything she did, whether it be from hand or boot or both of mind, was as good as I've seen it from her possibly ever in her career. I thought she's outstanding in terms of that feel of the game. Is she just growing and growing as the weeks go on? Because that's how it seems from the outside looking on her playing in the field.
Yeah, I think we saw her in the Six Nations, like almost come of age a little bit in terms of where she was within a game, and I think obviously she picked up an injury after that, so then she has a little bit of time. But coming back into pre-season, like she's just started to own things. Like she's a part of our leadership group, and she just has so much confidence about what she wants, how she wants it doing, and that's what you want your tens to do. You want them to run the show, and she's definitely starting to, or she has done, but more so. Like she owns this. She's very like clear and assertive with what she wants, and that's what you want your fly halves to do. And I think she's just been on this curve that's steadily going up and up and up, and obviously for us that's great. And like you say, I think she'll continue on that. I think players like that like get better and better with more games they have and more game time they have, and obviously she's trained really well, and coming into that, it's nice to see what she's been doing in training come across onto the training pitch. So yeah, hopefully obviously she'll go on as the World Cup games come thick and fast for her as well. So yeah, she's just kicked on from the Six Nations where she was exceptional then as well.
Yeah, and I love seeing those little bits about players, and even just the way she holds herself and her gait, just walking around the place from 2 years ago to now. I'd love to see 2 VTs of her walking from a couple of years ago, because just that confidence, the way she holds herself is very, very evident. And I'm no psychologist, but that kind of side of the game certainly fascinates me. What fascinated me was USA have plenty of rugby over the summer. They're battle hard. We know a lot of the extra players in their hugely physical side, one of certainly top 3-4 sides in terms of physicality in the world. I thought they were a little bit mentally shaken. Rabbit in headlights first 10 minutes. You score a couple of tries. After that, I thought there's some massive improvements there, and Rob Kane has brought in Martin Haag, two both very, very good human beings, and I think that's helps massively. But what did you make of USA?
Yeah, I think very much improved from the last time we played them as well, and I think you can see where they've both tactically and technically got better, and you can see the things that I think, like especially in their forward pack around what Martin Haag, I'm presuming, has come in and done around their maul, but their more defence, especially, and just in terms of having a platform to play off. They didn't really have that much when we played them in the autumn, so that's a massive thing. Like you look at the players that they have, that like you look at Kelters, and like you need to give her something to play from, and I think they've started to like make real good inroads within that. And I think like you say, I almost feared a little bit at the beginning of like what was going to be, but they certainly they caused us to be under pressure. Like they caused us to force errors, to make the mistakes that we did do. So that shows that in terms of where they come, it's easy for a team when you've had 2 quick scores given against you. You've got 2 options really. You'll be like, all right, we're going to do something about this and come out fighting and try and get back into the game and play our game, or it's going to be a pretty tough day for teams. And I think they certainly did the latter. And if I was Rob Kane, I'd be looking and being like happy with some of the elements of that. What they just need to do is make that more consistent.
I couldn't agree more. And I think what Rob has to deal with behind him in terms of support and whatever, it's worlds away from where the Red Roses are. And user likes of Detivo, when they did use the second half, she looks dangerous. When they pull Kelter back in at 12 second half, I mean that run was outstanding. And probably one of the only players in the world makes a run like that. She's brilliant, and just polishing. For me, the transference from forwards to backs just wasn't quick enough, and that speed of ball just wasn't there for Gabby Cantona to deal with. Just have that half extra second. But you say they put you under pressure. You're down to 13 at one point. Were you pleased with the rear guard action at that point? Let's not go into the yellows. I think that's
I think like. I think for us, it's like as much as you never want to go down to 13 players, I think actually you can practice all these scenarios and training and things, but until you get it in a game. But I think in terms of like some of the decisions around what they did and how they managed the game at that point, especially with all the changes, I think it will stand as in really good stead. To have had that experience, as much as you don't want it, so I think it was managed as probably as best it could be in that time.
Look, we could go on and on. Time is precious. I know it's a day off and a few days off before you get back into camp later in the week. The only other game of the weekend was France-Italy, 21-0 to France. Overshadowed a little bit and marred by looks like a pretty serious knee injury from Manuela Forlan. She's been a totem pole for Italy for many, many years. Interesting, France scored very early. It's a little bit like you're going, then sort of Italy come back. The teams do battle again this weekend in Biella in Italy. France seem to put the foot on the gas when they want to, and when they feel the game's won. It's not the first time I said this about them of late in the last couple of seasons. They allow sides to come back, although not in this case on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. You don't know what. I mean, I haven't seen it, so you don't know whether they made changes. You don't know whether they're trying different things. You don't know, like in terms of like French being French, like you say, they know they've won that game at that point. And how much do they want to show at this stage in a World Cup prep as well? So I think there's a lot of things to be taken into account in World Cup games, but they seem to have gone off the radar a little bit in terms of like you don't hear much from them or what they're doing at this moment in time with their preparation. So it'll be interesting to see how they travel to Italy, and then also what side they put out, and whether they give some of the others opportunities. They obviously had a couple of new caps in there as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how prep goes. But it's probably a bit like I think you can read a lot into warm-up games, but actually what matters is when you get out to the World Cup and how everyone plays then.
Yeah, possibly selects and that kind of stuff is the key focus in these games. Enough chitter chatter pitter patter. Let's get our listeners all up to date with all the news from around the oval world that's happened in the last couple of months since we've been on our summer hollybops. The Pacific 4 Series was played out back in June. The Black Ferns beat Australia 23-10, Canada 28-0 and USA 50-6. Canada beat their North American cousins 36-5 and Australia 22-10. Australia ended the series winless with a 16-14 loss to the USA.
In July, Samoa, Papua New Guinea, Fiji and Tonga all took part in a competition played in New Zealand where Samoa beat Papua New Guinea 91-0. Fiji beat Tonga 34-0. Tonga then beat Papua New Guinea 108-7. Fiji managed a close win against Samoa 31-24. And then we saw South Africa went over to Japan where they won 15-6, and Canada hosted Italy where they won 34-24.
They did indeed. August saw South Africa back at home in a two-test series against Spain. The hosts won both of those games 44-5, 37-14. Ireland went off to Japan, won their first game 57-22, and then a huge turnaround as Japan came back to win the second test 29-10. Australia and New Zealand did battle as well for the O'Reilly Cup, which the Black Ferns have never lost. Possibly not unsurprisingly. 52-5 in the game one, and a much stronger performance from the Wallaroos in the second game. 14-22 was the Black Ferns' victory. And of course the USA, we've spoken about them coming over and playing the Red Roses last weekend, but they were up at Scotland before that, winning 21-17. And then, of course, that 52-14 loss at Sandy Park. Wales were in Canada as well for a single test match. They ended up losing 31-3 at the Wanderers ground. And Wales, of course, face England on Wednesday the 14th of September at Ashton Gate, Bristol.
Australia were named Commonwealth Sevens champions in Birmingham in the UK. It capped a dominant season for them, beating Fiji 22-12 to the title, where New Zealand finished third with Canada fourth.
Well, that's a whistle-stop tour around the rugby world. Hopefully we've got all the bits and pieces in there. This weekend, it's the Sevens World Cup. Sarah Hunter, as an undefeated Sevens coach in your career, you'd be perfect to talk us through this. But no, it's all on Cape Town at the weekend, isn't it? Great colour and noise for the Sevens. It's all going to be live on the World Rugby website. The format is a round of 16. The losers then go into a challenge. One side of the draw, the winners go to the championship. And the 16 teams are Australia, Madagascar. It's growing, isn't it, this game? USA, Poland, great to see them through. Berth's delighted. Canada, China, Fiji, Japan, Ireland, Brazil, England, Spain, New Zealand, Colombia, France and South Africa. All kicks off on Friday, this Friday, at 11:11 UK time. It's great noise and colour, but it's, you and I were just talking before we came on air, just needs to capture the imagination and just draw the rugby public's eye a little bit more. Would you agree with that, Sunter?
Yeah, I was just saying, I think not for the players themselves, but for the fans, it's almost gone a little bit under the radar, which is such a shame because it's a World Cup, it's such a major tournament. The athletes, the players they've qualified, they've been preparing, and going out to a World Cup is something really special that it warrants the same back from it, from the organisation of being out there in the public eye for people to know about it. It needs to be almost put into a limelight that I just feel it isn't at the minute.
I agree with you, and it's there's no sort of host broadcaster, and certainly we talk selfishly done about the UK here, and Sky used to sort of just whack it on the channel and away you go. You dip in and out as you wanted. But yeah, sort of streaming doesn't make it wonderfully easy. But yeah, there is talks about sorting the format out and that kind of stuff. But it's quite an exciting format, this World Cup. So that's all the international news. How about some of the news from the UK over the last 8 weeks or so?
So back in early August, Ireland announced 43 centralised pace contracts for elite women's rugby for next season, including the contracts and operation for the Sevens programme. Worth noting the timeline, 13th of December in 2021, 62 players write to the Irish government. The 4th of August 2022, 43 pro contracts. It was also announced that Gillian McDarby has been appointed Head of Women's Performance and Pathways.
Yeah, it's very significant, that timeline, isn't it? The power of the people is not lost. What an Ireland, finally at the table. Back in July, the RFU announced an ambitious 10-year strategy to professionalise and redevelop the Premier 15s. In a new strategy document, they outlined plans for it to become the first fully professional women's rugby league across all aspects of the game from the start of the 23-24 season, with a priority placed on player welfare and investment in training facilities. A long-term commercial model was also laid out to become financially sustainable, with a growth plan focused on acquiring new audiences through live and digital products. The governing body says the overall cost of the revamped league will be around £222 million over a 10-year period, with the projected revenues of 174 million. The RFU says it will make up the remaining 48 million shortfall required the Premier 15s to achieve its strategic overhaul. Those funds will go towards expanding the league's broadcast reach, absolutely vital. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. Increasing player salaries. It's a big smile from Sarah Hunter. And player coaches. And enhancing the player environment, recruiting new staff, as well as improving the matchday experience for fans and players. Yet again, the RFU leading the way, putting these plans out there, putting the figures out there, and we can criticise bits and pieces of what the RFU do in my line of work, but in terms of driving the women's game, it's hats off and a huge applause. Another kind of landmark announcement. And I'm not going to ask you to comment on it, Sarah Hunter, because that would be unfair. The RFU, and not long after, the IRFU announced updates to their gender participation policies, both acknowledging it's a very sensitive subject, and in short, the change is only to permit players in the female category if the sex originally recorded at birth is female. The RFU in the last few days have been hit by legal action over the change. The governing body say they will robustly defend their case against transgender player Julie Curtis, issuing them with a pre-action protocol letter.
Finally, Quins have a new head coach in Amy Turner, the former England international scrum half and hooker. She's been the England head coach for under-20s and in the senior side as well. Wasps also have a new head coach in LJ Lewis, replacing Giselle Mather. LJ is now in her 4th season at the club and will continue her work with the England under-20 as the women's assistant coach.
And of course, we will get you up to date with all the player movements, and there's been quite a lot, hasn't there? Talking about Wasps there, quite a significant movement away from Wasps for various reasons. But we're going to get you up to date with all of that news ahead of the Premier 15 season starting after the World Cup.
I'm Lynn Cantwell and you're listening to the Women's Rugby Pod.
A lot of news there, Sunter. And I think looking back at news, it's probably not worth discussing a huge amount of those items. One thing I did want to speak to you about was Fiji. They've had a good summer. They're good in Commonwealth Sevens, and those players are going to flip-flop, aren't they? They're pretty good in those games against the other Pacific Island nations. They are going to be a handful, just for the fact that the unknown quantity of them at the 15s World Cup.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, we've never played them as a 15s nation. There's a lot of unknown about them. There's a lot of known about their 15 side. Obviously, their 7 side's probably a lot more well known, and it'll be really interesting, like you say, to see how many of them go across after this Sevens World Cup to join up with their 15s program and see maybe what that does to their team. I think there's just things you probably are expecting, like physical, direct, offloading game, unpredictability. I think we'll get all of those sorts of things. So yeah, it's going to be a real test for us in terms of how we want to play our game, and how, I don't know, is the classic case of having to adapt for the team that you play. Like, we play so many teams that we know exactly how they're going to do, what they want to do, where they want to do it. That this will be a really good test for us to see where we are at, like the game we want to play, and how we might have to change that as the game goes on. So yeah, it's a good challenge. It's nice and refreshing to play a team that you don't get to play too often as well.
Last piece before we go, Sunter. I mean, she's got to be careful, this lady, because if she does any more good, she's going to sort of be known as a sort of Irish witch with a wand. I mean, what Lynn Cantwell is doing down in South Africa, it's nothing short of magical. I mean, she's changed the entire vibe. She's got the men sitting with the women in a team photograph. I've never seen that before. Have you ever seen that before? Never.
No, never.
The whole, I mean, it's been a nation very against women playing rugby. 2010. I remember talking to the guys, and it just women weren't allowed to play rugby. Not any laws, but just within their villages and families and what have you. She has totally changed the landscape in what is a huge rugby nation. She's just nothing short of miraculous.
Oh, but you see, seen so the 20s have been playing this summer as well. They're under 20s, like
20s, test matches, sevens.
Yeah, like it just looks like the nation's behind the game, and I'm sure she's had to push and challenge. But like I think we said when she came on, if anyone's going to do and be successful down there, it's going to be Lynn. And like we obviously played a training game against them last autumn, and it was great, and you could see the things that she was trying to start to implement. And it's almost like, okay, please don't be too good come October. You can go on to bigger and better things after we've played you in the World Cup. But yeah, I do really hope that they go on. And like you look at some of the results that they've had, against Spain. Spain are a well-tested nation, and they've gone to Japan, and yeah, they look to be putting things certainly in place. So that'll be another real tough challenge for us. They're very physical as well. So you look at our pool, you've got a Fiji, a France, and a South Africa. There's no game you look and be like, this is a game you can sort of take it easy with, because they're like, yeah, it'll be 3 probably very brutal encounters, no doubt.
Yeah, they will indeed. I should be commentating on that game against South Africa, actually, which just slips seamlessly like a ski sock into the fact that ITV obviously showed the game at the weekend. We'll be showing the Wales game and doing all of the World Cup back here in the UK, which is great news that it's on terrestrial television. Let's finish up then, Sunter, with some shout outs. Big one to your counterpart down in New Zealand, Kendra Coxage. She has announced that she will retire at the end of the World Cup. The double World Cup winner and the most capped Black Fern, I should say, of all time. We want to add a 3rd trophy to retire with and have the same scriptwriter as Richie McCaw. Big smile on Centre's face.
Yeah, she's been amazing for the game, not just for New Zealand, but as a whole. I think she's been an amazing servant to the game, like worldwide, and what she's done in New Zealand has been pretty incredible, to say the least. So obviously you want her to go and do well, but if she doesn't finish with that 3rd trophy, it wouldn't be too bad from our perspective, because we might be in with a chance then of winning it.
Yeah, and she should probably have a nice set, shouldn't she? She'd have a silver.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'd have a nice set.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, no, but in all, whatever happens, like I do hope she goes and has like finishing on a home World Cup, like just must be the absolute ultimate. So yeah, I just hope she has a great time finishing, regardless of what that ends up with results wise. If she can go out and enjoy that and know that's the last thing she'll be doing, then yeah, hopefully she'll have had an amazing career, and it'll be the perfect way for her to hang up her boots. And then shout out to Martin Thomas and his new book, World in Their Hands, the story of the first Women's Rugby World Cup, is out on the 29th of September. And a bit like buses, there's none, and then 2 come along with Ali Donnelly's Scrum Queen's book. So yeah, it's brilliant to have 2 books out. I've actually read this book, and he kindly asked me to write the foreword for it as well. So I can highly recommend going out and getting it. I felt a little bit embarrassed when I read it that I didn't know about a lot of I knew the premise of a group of women and Debs Griffin and Sue Dorrington and players like that setting up the World Cup, but I didn't know the in-depth about it. I didn't know about the sort of the history behind, like, the build up to a World Cup and European Championships and Rugby World Festivals, and the history about the game, not just the women's game. There's stuff about the men's game in there. So yeah, it's a great book for people to read up and appreciate the history of where the games come from, and why we're hopefully lucky enough to go down to a World Cup in a few weeks' time and play in, I think it's the 9th World Cup. So yeah.
Indeed so. And if this podcast ended to go by, the foreword by Sarah Hunter is 118 pages long.
No, it's short and sweet.
Oh, I'm only putting an excellent. And the last shout out of the first episode of another series of the Women's Rugby Pod is a big hello to Tom, Sarah, Oscar and Sebi Palmer. So I didn't get to see you in person at Sandy Park. I hope you enjoyed the game down there. It just leaves for us to say, if you don't already, subscribe, give us a rating, obviously only if it's 5 stars. And share us as well. We're fairly unique in what we do here at the WRP. We'll bring you all the news from around the world. Certainly try to every single week, and that's not going to stop during the World Cup. We've got some hugely exciting players I'm really looking forward to telling you about once they're finalised. But we are back now, running through all the way through to the end of middle of next year, and the end of the Premier 15's season. So hold on. We'll be coming at you every single week. But yeah, subscribe, share, check us out on YouTube. We're all across the socials as well, at Pod Women's Rugby. All the details are there. Thank you very much to Tom and to Vicky and to you, Sunter. It's been absolutely lovely. Now you've got to go and sort your gardeners out.
I thought you might have forgotten about that. Yeah, it's the first time. It's just getting it all sorted.
There you are. Rose Cottage needs its roses sorted out by the head red rose. And on that dreadful chat, we will say goodbye. Thank you for your company, Sunter, and we'll